Yeah, yeah, that's right. The Boxing Source is back here with another hit podcast, and we are here for Sunday, April 9th, 2023. And we had a lot of action that took place, in the sport of boxing. We are going to be, covering a few things, a few events that did take place on Saturday, focusing on, what, I went to yesterday as I was over in Newark at the Prudential Center for the Shakur Stevenson Shuichiro Yoshino event. Um, and, wanted to, go through, those fights that were part of that card on ESPN. You know, want to go through those, and then once I'm complete with that, then we'll touch on what happened in Carson, California. Hopefully we'll have a guest to come on to speak about that card in Carson, California. But we'll kind of like detail that, and also a couple of announcements in the boxing world. We had some boxing news as far as like one fight that will be taking place at the 140-pound division. So we will touch on that, time permits. But wanted to get into everything here. Shout out to those that'll be here watching live on YouTube, and those that'll be listening to the podcast on demand. Live shout out to my boy Ron over at Fighter IQ. He's been doing this thing here in the boxing game. Real hard work in the boxing game in the media sphere. So shout out to Ron from Fighter IQ there. So you'll want to get into what happened in Newark. You had, of course, former two-division world champion Shakur Stevenson headlining the event there at the Prudential Center against Shuichiro Yoshino. You had those fighters coming into this bout undefeated. Shakur Stevenson coming in with a record of 19-0. Shuichiro Yoshino coming in with a record of 16-0. This was Yoshino's first bout in the U.S. Of course, he had all of his fights in Japan up to this particular point. Had taken out Masayoshi Nakatani last year. Those some of people know about Nakatani, who did face Teofimo Lopez and fought Vasily Lomachenko, there at the 135-pound division. But he did lose to Shuichiro Yoshino by a knockout. And I guess that pretty much got Yoshino this bout against Shakur Stevenson. You know what I'm saying? So you had some people saying that there are a number of fighters that could have fought Shakur Stevenson here at this particular position. Stevenson had came into the lightweight division, with a certain ranking of sorts, and that they were trying to have a eliminator bout there in the lightweight division. Some people mentioned Isak Cruz as a potential opponent for Shakur Stevenson, but that fell through. There were a couple of other fighters that were suggested, but it ended up being Shuichiro Yoshino, and so these two fighters were like ranked number 3 and number 4 in the WBC before this bout took place. And well, you had Shakur Stevenson. This was another bout that he had in the Prudential Center. Of course, that's his hometown there. And, the last bout that he had there, it was, a unanimous decision win over Roberson Kosesau. And after that bout, that's when he said that he's fully moving up to lightweight. So here against Yoshino, fully at lightweight, came into this bout, 134 and a half pounds, for the weigh-in. And we wanted to see what he was going to be able to do, there, not necessarily, cutting weight as much. Of course, he had came from 126 and 130. But now he's, pretty much at 135. And, a number of people were talking about Shakur Stevenson while he was undefeated and all of that. He, really didn't have much, KOs behind those, those wins. One of the more notable wins that he had by stoppage was when he stopped Jamel Herring in 2021 over in Atlanta. But outside of that, there wasn't really that much there. But here he really showed out as far as like being able to mix defense and offense. Of course, he is probably one of the better or probably one of the best offensive fighters in the sport of boxing. Probably has like the lowest connect rate, on him in the sport. I think it's around like 15, 16% or something like that. But he was able to mix that with some great offense that, precise punching and had some power behind it. So you really had a good mix of, offense and defense from Shakur Stevenson in this particular bout. And he was able to knock down Shuichiro Yoshino a couple of times here, before it got to the sixth round where he was able to have the bout stopped by Alan Huggins after a flurry. And so it was a TKO victory for Shakur Stevenson here against Shuichiro Yoshino. Before I go into it more, I wanted to add in a guest here that's been off and on. Glad to have him as a guest here on the Boxing Source. That's right, it's the chef. Brother Terrell is in the building. What's going on?
Me? I'm a guest. I live here. I like it here.
So what's happening, my man?
Everything good, man. Just finally got a nice, quiet Sunday evening edition. Come back, sit back and enjoy the show and participate. But just kind of what you just talking about with Shakur, man. I really got a chance just to really sit down and watch him box. Right. I mean, there's several things I'm glad to see him. First of all, he got a TKO at 135 in his first fight. Good to see. Kind of what we kind of talked about offline in the group. What he bring power up, what he do, how will he perform, things like that. Now, one thing I didn't really get a chance to delve into his opponent's record and stuff like that. How many knockouts the guys has, his quality of opposition. Has he? Because he's based in Japan, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And was this his first fight stateside? Do you know?
Yes, it was.
So that's always a factor. So hopefully that got here in time. Or I don't know if he had camp here. I don't know, but whatever. That's all on them to be ready for the fight in that regard. But more impressive with Shakur, he got a TKO win, and even post fight, he admitted himself that he felt stronger. Like I said, didn't have to drain down to 130 again. As you know, his last fight at 130, he missed weight.
Yep. And
that just means that he just naturally getting bigger for that class, was why we see him at 135 now. But let's just really once again just watch him work. I was really more impressed with him. And the reason why I say that, this guy's he stood right there with the guy multiple times, and you just watch his feet. His feet move here, there, just enough to stay out of range and stay away from getting hit. I said, wow, this guy's really, I mean, I already knew he's good, but when you sit there and look at the details of what he's doing inside the ring and why he's successful, I just got even more impressed with the guy. Like I said, just stood right there, boom, boom, boom. And like you just stated, he's one of the few boxers and few people in boxing now that rarely gets hit. And that's more impressive. When I was sitting there watching him, there's slight footwork just to move him side to side, throwing feints here and there. And on top of it, he's very comfortable in doing that in that style. All right, so and that just makes him scary for a lot of people. But like I said, main thing, I was just impressed because he actually brought up some power. Like he stated, he didn't have to drain down. So that was just definitely good to see. Definitely.
Yeah, he was able to, catch Yoshida with some solid shots. One, straight punch, took down Yoshida with that first knockdown, and then, a couple of flurries later on in the fight, forced the second knockdown. But there were times when he was just really tagging Yoshino, while he was in the pocket. And so, like you said, it was pretty much like a slip and move type of thing with Shakur Stevenson there against Yoshino. And so, that's a, very dangerous thing, especially like you were saying, with him being at a higher weight there now at 135, and now, kind of like sitting down more on his punches, that, brings a little bit more power behind his punch, so if he's able to, like I said, work on mixing that defense with some precise and sharp punches, that makes him a very dangerous fighter at 135. And that was kind of like the thing that was being talked about around the arena is that he could be there just right next in line to be among the top of 135. And some people are saying that he could probably get a title in the third division here. So it's like it's just a wait and see approach. And we they were talking about what could potentially happen there at 135 after the certain bout there on May 20th. So Shakur Stevenson says that like he's ready for anything, and that's what he talked about there. Immediately after the fight or after the win, and also in the I guess they say the post fight press or whatever it is, but he was there with a few reporters, including myself, where we kind of like talked about potentially fighting the undisputed lightweight champion, current undisputed lightweight champion. So there's that. I want to bring in another guest here, another great contributor to the Boxing Source. That's right, from the ATL, the Boxing Academics in the building.
Hey, what's going on, fellas? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we all good here, man.
Yeah, I'm one of the measly people trying to cook again. I know Terrell make me feel bad every time I say that, so I just gotta give homage to the king. Hail to the chief.
Hey, I'm cooking
Before
right now.
So I got to get a hail to the chief before I say anything like that. So
word. So yeah, man, just breaking down the thing there with Shakur Stevenson, was a very good crowd out there. What was it, like over 10,100 people in attendance for this particular event at the Prudential Center. It was 10,408 there in attendance for this particular event. So had a good amount of people out there for it, to watch the bout. And I think it was, a good atmosphere, for that fight, for the fights that were on the card. And Shakur Stevenson, was able to, pretty much show out. I think he, wanted to have that type of a showing against Yoshino after, what happened with Ropes and Jose Sal. I think that was, good for him in that aspect. But also, now he's like there making a statement there in the lightweight division. And with this, I mean, he's kind of like I had put him at number 8 in the pound for pound rankings there for the Boxing Source. But, now he could, potentially try to move up on that list there if he gets a few more statement wins, especially there in the lightweight division. So, Boxing Academic, what did you think about Shakur's performance there?
So I don't think you can take anything away from his performance. The man was smooth, he was smooth and he knew what it was, which was you ain't slick enough to beat me. You don't have the endurance to beat me. You don't have the IQ to beat me. And that gets me to the point of it all. You were overmatched, buddy. Again, you can't take anything away from Shakur because Shakur was smooth enough. He looked almost invincible, but against a man who's limited on offense and defense, a guy like Shakur who has Olympic pedigree is going to look very invincible. I would liken it to Andre Ward and Chad Dawson. Chad Dawson is a monster, and he was a monster before his chin sort of betrayed him. But I don't know if Chad went to the Olympics, but what I do know is when he fought the Olympic gold medalist in Andre Ward, you saw a difference in class versus him being able to keep up with Bernard Hopkins and other people that he fought. But he was weight drained. You got to throw that in there as well too. But class kind of tell over time, and it was a difference in skill class, and so no different than Shakur and not whatever the guy named. It was a difference in skill and class, but against a C-level fighter, a B- fighter, the guy would give them some trouble, but he was limited. I don't think we can tell too much other than what we sort of already knew. You put a guy who overmatched in front of him, he better get his rocks off. And I think that's exactly what he wanted to do. You put this, I don't want to call him a bum. I'm speaking as if I'm him. I'm not calling the guy a bum. I respect everybody who gets in the ring, and it's a certain level of grit that you have to get in the ring. But I'm speaking as if I'm Shakur. You put this bum in front of me, I'm going to embarrass him. And that's exactly what he did. I guess we can't get mad at him because, but his matchmakers, we gotta start sending this guy in some fights where people can fight back now.
Well, it's not that. You gotta remember that per Shakur himself, he said that he wanted to fight Pitbull Cruz. He wanted to fight Ambozos, everything. I forget the third guy said he wanted to fight. And on his request for a fight.
Right.
Coming up into a class, and you got and it has a big name, a former champ on top of that. You got a chance to get a good win, and you decline. That's what we call ducking in that regard.
What happened now? I was running to check my my oilless air fryer. I'm so sorry. Say that again, Terrell.
Don't ever mention the word air fryer to me.
You don't like the oilless air fryer? Man, I cooked the turkey in this bad boy. Now I'm about to cook these legs, these chicken legs in here.
All right. But no, and Stevenson wanted to fight other people, but they declined it. So this guy's like they on down the list. He's the one that accepted the call, and good exposure for him. Regardless of whatever comes out of him after this, everything right. But the main thing I want to look forward to is for Haney. Well, for one, let me take a step back. ESPN, of course, they're known for this. They showed a graphic. They showed that Lomachenko's number 2 at 135. I'm like, are you kidding? You got to be kidding me, right? Right. But we know that how that story goes. They're going to favor him no matter what, right? But they're still trying to push him up, and we know why, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the reason why I hope that Haney just destroys and knocks him out of 135, and makes a big statement against him. But if that does happen, a fight between Haney and Stevenson, what's the motivation for Haney to stay at 135 versus going to 140 for moving some weight? Haney is big, basically more of a struggle to stay at 135. Right.
Yo. Hold up. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. Now you were saying the thing there with Haney, right?
What motivation to stay at 135 for a fight with Stevenson when it's hard for him to make weight versus is there more glory for him at 135? What's his motivation right there if he's to beat Lomachenko?
I guess he says maybe that's the fight that he's gonna try to go after next. Particularly, if he says that he may likely intend to stay with Top Rank after this Lomachenko fight. That Lomachenko fight is the last fight in his current contract under Top Rank. I think it was Top Rank in through Lou DiBella or something like that. But outside of that, that's probably his other fight that he wants to have is the fight there, against Shakur Stevenson. And, after the bout that Shakur Stevenson had against Yoshino, they said, I think it was like Mark Kriegel or someone like that, said that he received the message from Devin Haney that Haney intends to stay at 135 after the Lomachenko fight. So, with that being said, that opens the door for a potential fight there against Shakur Stevenson. And, Shakur Stevenson said that, hey, he's been waiting, to have that fight against Devin Haney, and that he's had, a couple of, sessions there against Devin Haney and feels like he's got the better of Devin Haney in a majority of those. And so he's like, hey, I want to have that fight. It could be anywhere. It could be in New York. It could be in Las Vegas. It could be in LA. It could be anywhere. That's what, we said, after this win over Yoshino. So he's kind of psyched to have that potential bout later this year against Devin Haney if Devin Haney is the one that could, get through Vasily Lomachenko on May 20th in Las Vegas. So, I'm kind of like saying that is one of those higher profile fights in boxing, later on down the line. Like I said before, I had Shakur Stevenson listed on the Boxing Source pound for pound rankings. I do have Devin Haney listed in the pound for pound rankings as well. So, I think that they're two of the most skilled guys in the sport. So that would, kind of lead into a very good bout between two highly skilled individuals there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like saying, hey, if they could try to get that bout put together, I have no issues with that.
No, I know we got Haney Loma coming up. I know that, and we definitely want to wait to see how he looks again in that fight. I think we all project him to look great against Lomachenko, and hopefully just getting if not a stoppage, which would be very ultra impressive, or just a dominant points win, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in that regard, how do you project Haney Stevenson playing out? Than what we see now.
I think it would be a fairly interesting bout between the two. In one where I kind of like see Stevenson. In this particular bout that he had against Yoshino, he looked really comfortable being there at 135 and having that type of frame and weight behind him. So he's probably going to be able to do more things that he didn't quite do at 126 and 130. So I'm saying that he has the length and the reach to me in order to give issues to Devin Haney in this particular sense. With Haney, it's more about his ability to kind of like control the pace of a fight. And so will he be able to do that against Shakur Stevenson? So even though Haney is like the taller fighter there, has longer reach, but will he be able to control the pace there against Shakur Stevenson and be able to I guess have enough on his offensive arsenal to keep Stevenson from countering or slipping and then coming back to him or whatever it is. So I think it's more of like a tactical battle between those two individuals. But with Stevenson, I just think he has a little bit more mobility, especially with his feet, that kind of like say, hey, he'll be able to get to another spot quicker than Devin Haney can. So I'll kind of lean towards Stevenson in that particular battle, but I think it still would be a close bout.
Yeah, me personally, I think I put it more at same way, pretty much. But actually, I think for me, I get an edge to Haney. Speed wise, I mean, speed's probably gonna be even. I think, but for me, my question is, who's the more experienced fighter at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Probably about even, but fighting with Haney fighting an opponent like Lomachenko, that itself gives you experience in fighting a top opponent. I'm not saying that Lomachenko's still a world beater, nothing like that. I'm not saying that, but he's a veteran. That's his point. And
right.
In that regard, he knows footwork, he knows judgment, how to judge distance, stuff like that, and he makes you think. And Haney's will definitely have to think in order to beat him. He's not gonna be able to go in there and walk Lomachenko right over. That's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
Mm.
But with Haney, that fight itself is going to give him more experience. Just from the two fights going over to Australia, that gave him more experience, and things like that. That gives him a world perspective in terms of boxing, and so it's something that Stevens just hasn't seen. I'm not saying he's not capable, but stuff he has, that's experience he has not encountered yet. So that's what I think gives for me the edge to Haney, the speed, things like that. But like I said, we'll see, because it's going to be very, very interesting when the after fight does come into play.
Word.
Oh, I thought you was talking about Haney Lomachenko at some point, and then you said Loma's sort of skill, which to me, if I piggyback off of what I feel like I heard, but if Loma can outskill him and it become a battle of skill, he gonna have a lot of trouble. But if he can use his speed and quickness and even put the fear of God in Lomachenko in that he's a bigger fighter and that he could hurt him per se, sort of like Loma was sort of scared of Lopez, then it's gonna be a long day for Loma. It's just if it's a battle of skills, you could potentially give the edge to Loma. But if it's a battle of physicality and Devin wins that battle of physicality, that physicality puts him over the top with his skill.
Yeah, it's true. But the thing too with Lomachenko is, the MO is that he kind of like starts off slow and then comes pretty much like does his thing later on in the bout. Like they said, like he might give away a couple rounds here and there before he really gets started on his opponents. Will he be able to do that against someone like Devin Haney, who's bigger and younger and stronger than he is? So that could be something. Shout out to those there on the live chat, including Brother Tip, who is critiquing or pretty much criticized the Stevenson Yoshino fight, saying that it was boring, and says, hey, if Devin Haney can catch flack about his fights, and Shakur could catch flack too there. But Yoshino did defeat a couple of guys, notable guys there in the lightweight division. He did defeat who was it, Masahiro Ito, who was like a Masayuki Ito, who was like a former world champion, who lost to Jamel Herring. He lost that belt to Jamel Herring, but he also did defeat Nakatani, who fought a couple of guys there like Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko. So Yoshino was pretty much like the next guy there from Japan that competed there in the lightweight division. So there was that co-feature bout. You had two more like undefeated fighters. You know what I'm saying? And the real big baby, Jared Anderson. They're going up against gentleman George Arias. Jared Anderson 13-0. George Arias was 18-0. I had seen both of these guys' previous fights live. Jared Anderson over at Madison Square Garden. George Arias had his fight during the International Boxing Hall of Fame weekend. That was like back in the last summer. And Arias is a guy that's short, fairly short there in the heavyweight division. Some people say that heavyweight fighters are like 6'3" or 6'4" short, but George Arias is there at 5'11", and he's pretty much like a short, stocky guy, from the Bronx, New York, whatever it is, and pretty much tries to move around the ring and hit his opponents with big punches, and tries to wear down his opponents. But someone like a Jared Anderson, who has like a good amount of tools, in his repertoire, he pretty much like made a statement, early and often there in his bout against George Arias. And, he pretty much like built off the jab and then was working more off of that jab and kind of like, back there to the ropes, even though sometimes Arias kind of voluntarily, went to the ropes himself. But if you're going to do that, you got to have to make your opponent pay. If he's going to be throwing a jab, you're going to have to slip the jab in and come back with something more. You can't just, try to wait on something and then just throw like a big hook, like fighters like Jared Anderson will see that coming almost a mile away. And, that's what he saw like early in the fight, is that Jared Anderson saw a number of those big punches coming. And so he, just stepped back and just said, okay, just be patient on that. And Anderson just beat up George Arias there, over the course of 3 rounds. And, before the 4th round came out, the corner for George Arias said, hey, man, we ain't going to let you get out there and take more punishment. He already had like a little bit of a cut, under his eye or whatnot, and the quarter just stopped the bout just like that. So Jared Anderson gets that TKO win. 14 wins, 14 KOs. I think some people in the crowd thought that George Jarrett's could have went out there and you probably could have seen more from Jared Anderson in this sense. But Anderson is one of those high rising heavyweights and says that, hey, he feels like he's one of the best heavyweights out there. So he's like, hey, if anyone wants to try to call him out, he's like, hey, I'm here, I'm ready, and I'm willing to take on that challenge. And I think that he is going to be slowly one of the better fighters in the heavyweight division in the next year or so. So I think that a couple of those fighters that may be out there at the heavyweight division, he could, still face that are out there. But, as of right now, they're going to, still kind of bring him up a little bit slowly, so to speak. But I think there's like a couple of fighters that might be out there that he could face, like an Otto Wallin maybe. They don't want to put him in against like Efe Ajagba, but they were two former campmates, so they're not gonna do that. But they ain't gonna have like a Joseph Parker out there. I thought he would have faced Zhilei Zhang in this particular card, but Zhilei Zhang's facing Joe Joyce. So I'm like, hey, maybe if there's a way, one way or another, maybe he could face a Dylan White, but I don't think Dylan White would face Jared Anderson there either. So, we'll see what happens with Jared. But Brother Terrell, what do you think about the young guy there from Toledo?
Once again, a very impressive outing, and I tell you, I mean, it's kind of expected what we saw in a sense, but at the same time, like Mike says, it's boxing and anything can happen at any given time. But the number one thing I appreciate about Big Baby is how calm he is in the ring. Fights in control, never out of position, uses a little quick jab, things like that as he needs to, and just to gauge out his opponent and reads them with that jab. And he's just reading them with his eyes too. You can just tell. You can just observe that too on top of that. But he's just calm. And he pitches, he chooses the right shots at the right time, puts in the right power at the right time. Some guys that are young to their careers, they will jump in there and try to fire power shots right away and to get the opponent out of there. He doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
He could, and honestly, he could do that and probably be successful, but that doesn't give you the experience that you need. Doesn't give you the rounds that you need in terms of facing different type of opponents and things like that. But this dude just says calm, boom, boom, boom. Okay, you want this? Okay, boom. You want to fight? Oh, boom, boom, boom. And then next you know, we got an end result like that. For me, George Arias people, guy came in at 18-0, whatever, I think 7 KOs or something like that. Why are you going to put your guy even against Big Baby like that? I mean, we know a lot of times they go through great lengths to protect a fighter's oath in that regard. But for me, personally, I'm not letting my guy fight Big Baby. I mean, I know you're probably gonna lose at some point in time.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was Arias, people, unless I can get no other offer or nothing like that, I'm not really gonna take my. And it's not that you don't believe in your fighter, but it's all about matchmaking. As we always talk about on the show. It's that right matchup for your guy. Actually, with Arias coming in at 5'11", 6 feet, whatever he is, stuff like that, he's gonna be an undersized guy against practically anybody.
Yeah.
But in that regard, there could be some slower heavyweights out there that he could look good against. But Big Baby is definitely not one of those, and he ultimately paid the price and got beat up. That's pretty much what happened. Got beat up.
Yeah, and just recently, had a little news tidbit. I think this came from our boxing scene, but there were like a few reports about this potentially happening anyway. Jared Anderson will have a fight in his hometown of Toledo, Ohio, that will be taking place on July 1st. The opponent is to be determined, but he will be, involved in a fight card on July 1st in his hometown of Toledo, Ohio. So that's going to be something, big thing there for Jared Anderson, as that kind of like would be a good event there in his hometown of Toledo, Ohio. Boxing Academic, any thoughts there about Jared Anderson here?
I'm glad you went to Terrell first. I was seasoning my chicken. You know, I got to get this part right. And I got to say one more thing. You see how Terrell tried to shame me when I said I tried to use my oilless air fryer? Terrell, it's one of them big boys. It's turkey fryer. It ain't one of them little things you have in the kitchen, Terrell. It's like if we went camping, we need to have a boxing sauce camping trip. That's what we need to have. But
Word.
yeah. Terrell, I'm not going against you, but the things that you see as strengths, I see as potential pitfalls. So you mentioned that Big Baby is really calm in the ring, and he is. He likes to set the pace that he want to fight in. He's obviously better than the guy that he's in the ring with. He can choose his shots. He can decide when he want to fight, decide when he don't want to fight, and whenever he's ready to go, he can get certain guys out of there. The thing is, he's young, but he's getting to the point to where he should start facing guys that's going to give him a little bit more adversity. Because to me, if you always fighting in first gear and you never have to crank that thing up and get it in, let's say a 6 speed, get that thing in fourth gear or something like that, and you always in first gear and you barely get it out to second gear, it's no different than what's going to happen between Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. I'm not trying to keep bringing them up because, if you scared to fight, then we tired of like talking about you. But all I am saying, the reason why I favor Errol Spence is because we've seen Errol Spence have to take it to fourth gear. We've seen Errol Spence have to take it to fifth gear. When the last time we seen Terrence Crawford take it out of third gear? It's if we got 6 gears, when the last time we seen Terrence Crawford take it out of third gear? And I think that will be one of the things that ails him. And it's no different with Big Baby. I think the fact that he's in there, he real lax, he ain't really, I ain't saying he ain't taking it serious, but it don't look like he taking it serious. It's like he just like, I'll get you out of there, Like I know he got that whole cool thing going on. I get that. But I would just encourage this man, whether you fighting a guy that ain't on your level or a guy that is on your level, you got to go in there and treat them guys the same way that Shakur Stevenson said that I'm gonna treat this guy as who he is. He got to get that dog. He got the dog in him. I'm not saying he don't have the dog in him, but what I am saying is he can't play down to his competition level, because that's the same reason why 7-foot dude got knocked out, because he played down to his competition level. And or that was bound to happen anyway. But I just when Big Baby fights somebody that's game and take his shot, because we saw it with that other guy who blew his wad in 2 rounds. He was giving as good as he gave to Big Baby. And just imagine
last fight,
Forrest, just imagine if Forrest was actually a guy who had win. Like, I get it. If I was Forrest, I would have did the same thing. If I know I ain't got the best win in the world and my chance is to put you on your back, I'm going to go for it. And after I give my best, you got me. I gave my all. I hurt you. Couldn't get you out of there. Pat myself on the back. I'm proud of myself. I don't want no participation trophy, but I'm just saying I gave all in the strategy that I knew gave me the best opportunity to win. If what's his name ain't careful, he gonna fall the same fate as the tall dude. What's his name? Who just got beat yesterday?
Oh, Sebastian Fundora.
Fundora, he gonna fall the same fate. He got to get out of second gear.
So he needs to be like less nonchalant, because in that first round of this fight against George Arias, you see like at the beginning there, he pretty much got to the center of the ring and he just was like moving around a little bit. Then he just dropped his hands and then he was just looking at George Arias like, yeah. It was almost like this is gonna be easy, mad easy. I'm just chill, or maybe you should just go out there and just handle business just off the rip. But yeah, I just felt like and I kind of like had this feeling before the fight, like all he has to do is just assert himself, be aggressive and come forward towards George Harris, and he was going to get him out of there, and that's what it was. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I guess he'll have to see if he gets matched up against a fighter that will bring a little bit more out of him. I just don't know when that will take place. I think that they're building them up very well, having them rack up the wins and things like that. But as far as like him actually facing those higher ranked contenders, I don't know if that's going to happen here for I don't know, maybe about a couple more fights or whatnot. So like I said, he has the bout coming up July 1st in Toledo, Ohio. So he's gonna have a hometown type of a fight. I don't think it's going to be, something where he's going to, really be challenged or something like that. So, I'd say, get that bout in and then just, move towards, having something else later on down the line to, kind of like say, okay, this is the step of the fight that they'll have here for Jared Anderson. Other fight that they had on the ESPN card, Keyshawn Davis there versus Anthony Yiggett. Was had a little bit of action there, in this one here, but you kind of like seeing Keyshawn Davis here kind of like get to that gear that I thought that he was going to be able to have in this previous fight, against Juan Carlos Burgos. Although he had a clean shutout against Burgos, there, some people thought that he was going to be able to stop Burgos. But he wasn't able to do that then. But here against Yiggett, he was able to get that stoppage victory. And in that round before round 9, he got like a good body punch in there and was able to put Yiggett down to the canvas. But that was before he was able to finish, off Yiggett in at round 9. Shout out to those now coming in on the live chat. Slide there with the contribution to the boxing source. Big ups to you for the contribution and also the juice here on the live chat. Yeah, like back to the thing there with Keyshawn Davis. They had like a lot of trash talk between him and Yiggett leading into the bout, and then kind of like culminated into this particular bout. I think it was more of like an action packed fight there, but it was still like a completely different type of a level there for Anthony Yiggett here against the Keyshawn Davis. But I think this particular fight kind of like showed like, okay, this is the type of talent that Keyshawn Davis has that makes him one of those good young up and coming fighters there. And this is in the lightweight division that's really stacked. So he did that. He handled business. He was able to get the 9th round TKO victory, and then after that bout, it's pretty much the story there with Keyshawn Davis. And this has been going on, over the past week and a half or so, is that he wants to fight with another lightweight contender, Frank Martin. And of course, Frank Martin had his, pretty much his like coming out show in his last bout, that he had against Michelle Rivera last December. And so, we're just trying to see like what would be next there for Frank Martin. And, Frank Martin said, hey, I wouldn't mind like trying to go up against someone like a Shakur Stevenson at lightweight, but, you had, Keyshawn Davis talking about Stevenson, man, you probably ain't even, quite on my level yet. But, the thing is, as of right now in the rankings, they do have Frank Martin kind of like up there at lightweight, and Keyshawn Davis is like a little bit below that. But Keyshawn Davis says that he's really confident and says that he would really like to face Frank Martin later on down the line. I'm not sure how that fight gets made. There's been a couple of people that said that, hey, if there's a way that you want to have that fight, you want to push for that fight, then it could happen. But I'm not sure about that one. But Keyshawn Davis did have a good showing there, in the opening bout of the ESPN telecast there at the Prudential Center Terrell, what you have about Keyshawn, man?
Man, it's simple. I totally admire the path that Keyshawn Davis is on right now, showing a good progressive skill set in terms of command, control, and boxing match. Fought in a 10-rounder last night. Glad to see that. But just able to scrap and fight and box, and those are the basic essentials of what we like to see in our sport. But Frank Martin, my boy, you don't want to ruin your career before you get started.
Man,
I'm not saying that Frank Martin is leagues above him, but Frank Martin is definitely beyond him at this point. I mean, Keyshawn said he wants to face him in the future. That's fine. But with that said, we want to see Keyshawn Davis continue to make strides within his career, within his command of boxing, his opponent level, things like that. But Frank Martin, I mean, what Frank Martin shows in that last fight, he's on another level higher than Keyshawn Davis. Well, once again, take nothing away from Davis for what he's accomplished at this point. He's a solid prospect to me at this point. Still not a world title contender yet, but he's approaching that. He's on the right path. He's taking care of his body, things like that. He's solid, always in shape. All the things you want to see a young fighter do. But Frank Martin, nah, don't bark up that tree yet. Let's let that marinate for some other time, and leave that big dog alone. That's my view on that.
Hey, I mean, you got Keyshawn Davis.
You mean Keyshawn or Frank Martin? Who you saying? Don't bark up. You saying Frank Martin don't bark up the tree, or Keyshawn don't bark up the tree?
Keyshawn better not be. He shouldn't be talking about Frank Martin. Not right now. No. He don't want that. He don't want that smoke. Nope.
You got Keyshawn Davis currently at 8-0. You got Frank Martin currently at 17-0. And we kind of like seen the last few fights of Frank Martin, and it was like, you know, on a completely different level of a skill or a type of a bout than what Keyshawn Davis has had, you know, here in his last few fights. So, I mean, Keyshawn, you know, really does want to, you know, kind of like have that type of a fight. But, you know, it hasn't been, you know, that far back since we like talked about Frank Martin being a potential opponent at lightweight for Gervonta Tank Davis in the future. So if we're talking about, you know, on one side, Frank Martin facing Gervonta Tank Davis in comparison to like facing a Keyshawn Davis, then that kind of like shows you, you know, where, you know, some people view Frank Martin here at this particular point at lightweight. You know, I mean, I know that Keyshawn Davis is like, you know, put there in the rankings at the WBC and the WBO. He does have a version of a title there, you know, in the lightweight division. But, you know, it's, man, that I think Terrell might have something because, yeah, like Frank Martin is on something. I know Keyshawn is a very, very talented young man, but something they got something with Frank Martin, man, especially with him being out there in the camp in you know, was it Oak Cliff or, you know, Dallas area, whatever it is, like the way that he's able to move around the ring and be very sharp and fast with his punches. I mean, that'll be something, you know. So and Keyshawn Davis, I mean, he had a great performance. I'm telling you, he had a great performance there against Anthony Yiggett. It's just that, you know, it's one thing to face Anthony Yiggett. It is a whole nother thing to face someone like Frank Martin. So there's that. Boxing Academic, you still on here? You finishing up the chicken on the air fryer?
Hey, get it right. It's an oilless fryer. It ain't an air. It's an oilless turkey fryer.
Okay, gotcha. Oilless chicken fryer.
Turkey fryer.
Turkey fryer. All right, gotcha.
I'm gonna take a picture of it so y'all can see when we had a Boxing Source cookout. What I said we was gonna do.
Camping trip.
Camping trip. Boxing Source camping trip.
Yeah. Word.
I can't disagree with anything you guys are saying. Don't bite off more than you can chew. In Frank Martin has the The what's their coach name?
What you say, Keyshawn? Yeah,
What's
go
Frank
ahead.
Martin coach? Frank Martin coach.
Oh, Frank Martin coach. Oh, yeah, he got Derek James.
Frank Martin has the Derrick James fighting blueprint. Start off early and often, hitting you into the body, take away that spark that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Hit you to the body as often as you can, and throw a minimum of 50 shots per round. And straight starting everything off with the jab, hit you to the body, throw a minimum of 50 shots per round. High guard, try not to have as much offensive infliction on you. That's a hard style to beat unless you are let me think of a good uh, boxer who does well against like the Matador sort of style. Unless you whoever does that, and I don't see Keyshawn doing that. Keyshawn again got that Bo Mac, Terrence Crawford style. I'm not comparing them. Terrence Crawford is head over heels better than him, but no disrespect to him, but you ain't gonna beat this guy who throws again a minimum of 50 punches around, hits you to the body every time he can, and he starts with the jab and ends with the jab. You ain't gonna beat this guy when you throwing 15 punches around. And keeping that up for 12 rounds where he throwing 50 shots around, that's a hard style to beat for even all the urban styles that we see. If you ain't in that same modified Mexican style, that modified black Mexican style, that's a hard style to beat, especially when they got power. Don't bark up the wrong tree, as y'all said.
Yeah, I mean it's that's like a real dangerous fight there, for Keyshawn Davis at this point. And like you said, with the style of Frank Martin, he's fairly active there as a lightweight as far as like his punch output, but it's also like the sharpness that he has there that you have to deal with, you know. And with Keyshawn, wants to try to go up against some of the level of a Frank Martin at this particular point of his career. Props to him. I mean, if he wants those challenges, see if he could go out and go after those particular challenges. But I just think like Frank Martin right now is like looking to be like one of those talents to try to vie for one of those world titles there at lightweight. But we'll see how that goes, especially with the current situation there at 135 pounds. But Keyshawn Davis getting that win there, that's a big on his part there against Anthony Yiggett. But you still like have to see what he's going to be able to do there in the lightweight division. I think that there's a few guys out there that he could potentially face. And you know what? If he really wants to try to get towards a fight with Frank Martin, I'd say that there should be like one bout within the division that he could have. And, it looks like they're trying to see, and they have somebody there in Jermaine Ortiz that's, had his good performance there against Vasyl Lomachenko. Did end up falling short, but now it's like, okay, where are they putting Jermaine Ortiz in the mix here in the lightweight division? And as of right now, it doesn't look like they've kind of like fit him in somewhere. So, okay, why not have Keyshawn Davis face Jermaine Ortiz to see where Keyshawn Davis is at this particular point in his career, especially with someone like Jermaine Ortiz, who has, good amount of skill, has a good amount of foot movement and moving around the ring and trying to, get to his opponents. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of like, what you had something on that, Terrell?
They actually presented Ortiz's name to Stevenson last night because supposedly Ortiz he expressed interest in fighting Stevenson. So, do me a favor. Is it Jermaine, Jer, or Jermaine? Jermaine, the ghetto side.
Jermaine Ortiz.
But no, but for real quick back to Davis, if I was him, post injury, I think he should probably face like a former champion and build to that to get some names on his resume and things like that. I think that's safe for him at this point. That's what I like to see him do.
Oh, that's true. They do have also had like Jeremiah Nakathila out there that he could face there at lightweight. So that's another fighter there for him. So that could be another potential opponent for Keyshawn Davis. I think like he has to get to a certain level before he could try to like say that he's in that same conversation as like a Frank Martin, because Frank Martin, according to some, could be, more of like one of those top, 7, top 5 lightweights, at this particular point. So, I mean, are people kind of like considering Keyshawn Davis like a top 10 lightweight or whatever it is? I don't know yet. I don't know yet. But here at this point, like, I mean, why not go ahead and have Keyshawn Davis face someone like those two names that I mentioned. Actually, like, I'm checking out the thing there for the the Transnational Boxing Rankings Board, and they have Nakathila and Ortiz as top 10 fighters there, in the lightweight division. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, if he's able to get in position to fight one of those guys and be able to score a win against them, then yeah, maybe he could be, part of that conversation. But, as of right now, I can't necessarily kind of like put Keyshawn Davis there within the top 10 of the, of the division. So, so yeah, that's pretty much, what I got on that one, man. You also had, a couple of other fights that were part of the card. You did have, on the ESPN Plus card, you did have Damian Neba, who, we've had a couple of interviews with Damian Neba here on the Boxing Source. He was able to score a 8th round TKO victory over Curtis Harper. Curtis Harper did make it a little bit tough there for Damian Neba, but, he was able to, get a, eventual stoppage there at the end of the bout there. The ref, Harvey Dock, stopped the bout there. Said Curtis Harper kind of like took too much punishment. So Neba has he stays undefeated. He's now 11-0. And also like mentioned there in the chat from Juice, he had Shushu Carrington, who had a very good performance there in his bout there against Brandon Chambers. There were 2 undefeated fighters, but it was just like it was 2 different type of levels there. Between Bruce Carrington and Brandon Chambers, and Bruce Carrington like looked like he was coming into the ring with bad intentions, so he was really on the level there in that bout. And you had also Kelvin Davis, one of the brothers there, Keyshawn Davis, with a unanimous decision victory over Nelson Morales. Morales kind of like made it a tough little fight there for Kelvin Davis over the course of those 6 rounds, and then. The opening bout had like a majority draw between Antoine Cobb and Jalen Phillips. That was like a 4-round bout. Wanted to touch in on live chat. It was a shout out to Durio 1000. He said like Keyshawn may want to fight people Frank Martin already fought, so he could show what level he's on. I mean that's a good little thing there. I just gotta see who he has that maybe Top Rank can pull off, like maybe like a Romero Duno. I mean, wait, I think Jackson Marinez was part of a Top Rank card, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was on the Top Rank card against Richard Comey. Yeah. So he was on the card with Richard Comey. So maybe they could get somebody like Jackson Marinez to kind of like get in there. I mean, he's been out there in the Dominican Republic for a few fights. So maybe Jackson Marinez could be an opponent there for Keyshawn Davis. You know what I'm saying? So you did have that. But one next thing there, man, I wanted to get into, what happened in Carson, California, man. I was hoping if, one one guy that supports the channel there. Shout out to Brooke Williams there, or also you know L Dub, L Dub Boxing. He was like out there in Carson, California, covering the fight card in Carson. That was headlined by the Sebastian Fundora Brian Mendoza fight, and Sebastian Fundora, man, looked like he was kind of like holding out. He was WBC interim super welterweight champion. He was building up his record there, undefeated. Coming in this bout 20-0. Had defended the interim title once there in last year against Carlos Ocampo. Of course, had the fight of the year against Erickson Lubin last year too. But some people were thinking like, hey man, it's Tower Inferno, Buzzsaw, they're in the 154-pound division. Like I said, undefeated. And went up there against Brian Mendoza, who, kind of like came up with a big win last year against former unified champion Jason Rosario, knocked out Jason Rosario there in the Armory in Minneapolis, and then was put in this position to fight Sebastian Fundora. And, even though Fundora was, outboxing, Brian Mendoza over the course of the bout, sometimes in boxing, all it takes is one punch. You know what I'm saying? And Brian Mendoza got that punch, man. And I think a couple of people have talked about it, and I know that I think Boxing Academic kind of like brought this up yesterday. It was a matter of time before Sebastian Fundora ran against somebody that had like a big punch behind him, and that's what Brian Mendoza had. And yeah, I'm sorry, but yeah, Fundora did get the chin check special, and man, that was that was like ugly, man. He was like, man, he got flattened. He got flattened, and then he looked like he was gonna get up, and he was like, it almost like looked like he was thinking about it. He was thinking about it. He's like, I ain't gonna get up, man. And so Brian Mendoza, now is the interim super welterweight champion with that win over Sebastian Fundora, man. And that, that's a huge setback for Sebastian, man. I think that, there is some, few like Monday morning quarterbacking for some people. Saying that, Fundora, I guess, had like run out of time there, being at 154. But, my thing with Fundora is that, yes, he does have a, number of victories, or like they say wins by KO, but it was more of like TKO victories, in that a lot of the times he pretty much like outworked his opponents, or, just threw like a series of punches that, it was just too much punishment for his opponents to take. And so they ended up going down by a series of punches, or it was just like, they just couldn't take, that much punishment. That's what ended up happening, in the Lubin fight. Like Lubin just took way too much punishment in that bout. And so, the towel got thrown in, and they stopped the bout. But, if you got somebody, and I say this a lot, if you're going against a fighter and that fighter does not respect your power punch, watch out, because they're going to try to get to you. And if they get to you, and if they got a big punch of their own, you better be able to take it, because if you can't, it's a wrap, buddy. And so that pretty much was the story there with Brian Mendoza getting a win over Sebastian Fundora in Carson, California last night. Brother Terrell, first, you got any thoughts on Mendoza getting this win?
Yeah, I didn't get to see the full fight. I only saw clips at this point, but I mean, but even regardless of that, I'm more surprised at what happened. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm honestly kind of upset he lost. I'm just be real with it, because I just like him how he has come up. He's very unique to the weight division, with his body type, things like that, his height, reach, all those things that we always. That's been funny since he's been on the major scene. But honestly, I'm just surprised that I'm very shocked and really hurt them. This point that he's lost because I like the kid. He's a good kid. He has a sister in boxing. He has a good personality from what we see, right? But this what he's been able to do at 6'5", 6'6", at 154 is ridiculous. It's just crazy. But back to the actual knockout, that was just a perfect punch that Mendoza threw at the time, and it was a perfect punch. That's all it was. So I don't think it was a case of Fundora quitting, because bottom line, he knew he got hit. He got hit hard and got hit at the right time at the right point on that chin in that regard. So I don't think there's a point where he quit. Like, oh, I don't think I can do it. No, he got knocked out. He got knocked out. And yeah, he set up on his hands and set up on his butt or whatever, things like that. And he thought about it. He saw the ref sitting there counting. We all saw that. But he knew, man, if I'm going to get up, it's going to be even uglier than this right here. So he made the right decision to keep his butt right down on the mat. As I said, if he would have got up, it would have been a highlight of the year knockout on his part. So he didn't want no parts of that. So that's what that was for me. It's not a case where he quit. He just knew what was going to happen. So, I mean, you can people can kind of debate that back and forth if they want to, but what are you going to do? You hurt. You hurt like you've never been hurt before in the fight. I mean, you look back last year to the Lubin fight. He got hurt in that fight. What did he do? He voluntarily went to a knee to take the knockdown, just to regain himself. But this one, there's not enough time left in that round for him to regain his composure. So if not, he's definitely getting knocked out. So I'm just more or less surprised and shocked that he lost, and in the fashion that he lost in that regard. But I mean, is this in film? No, because at this point, he's already built himself into one of the top people at 154, right? We know there's one guy that has all the belts, things like that. But even it's not going to push him back too far. I don't think it will. I still think that will there be more people that want to fight him now because of what happened? I don't think so. He's still the same fighter. He just got caught. That happens in boxing. We know that. He just caught at the right time and with the right punch. So kudos to Mendoza for getting that quality win.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying, leading into that seventh round, on the cards, he was pretty much winning every round. Only like one judge gave Mendoza one round in that particular fight up to that seventh round. And so he ended up getting caught. And like I said, it was different than the Lubin fight. With the Lubin fight, he just got stunned a little bit, and he just said, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and take a knee and try to regain myself, and get back up. But here he was really rocked, where his what was it, neural system or something like that, it pretty much went out. So once he got flattened, it was like, if he does get up, does he have the legs to kind of get himself through the rest of that bout? You know what I'm saying? And he's like, I guess not. And he still was able to get up, and he said that he'll be back. And he said soon after getting recovered, he said winning and losing is part of the game. He gave it his all, but to get today, he says, I came up short. Thank you to my fans for your support, and I know that setbacks are opportunities to learn and grow. So he says that he'll be back after all of this. But yeah, that was a really, really good setback for him, as he was well in the momentum to being the next in line after Tim Tszyu to challenge for the world titles there. Boxing Academic, you got anything on that Mendoza Fundora bout?
Of course, I have something on it. Brother Terrell alluding to someone saying that he quit. And guess what? I don't know if you'll get a copyright strike, but is it possible for you to play the knockout sequence?
I think I probably would get a copyright strike because it's showtime. So
okay, that's cool. All right, I'll just respond with words. I'll be descriptive. Objects in motion stay in motion. Objects at rest stay at rest. Decisions create habits. Habits create character. I am not putting an indictment on this man, and it's easy for me sitting on the couch watching him to observe and break down everything we see in a sport that shows us the character of a man. I'm only saying this to say that I understand that this man is human, but nevertheless, the actions that we make build the habits that we continue to do, and those continual habits build character. Again, we look at him, and if it sounds like I'm winded, I'm riding my bike because I didn't ride it earlier, so I'm doing it while my food cooking.
Mm-hmm.
But we say that with the Erickson Lubin fight, he made a decision to go down on one knee. It was the smartest decision to where he can clear his head. But to me, if you look at that Erickson Lubin fight, if you look at any other fight that he's probably been in, and if you think about how his sparring probably goes, he's used to getting his block knocked off because he doesn't use his range. So he used to getting hit by big shots. And guess what he probably does as something that's habitual? He gets hurt and he is used to trying to recover and or going down on one knee to quotation marks clear his head. Had he done that before he took them other two shots, that would have been a great call at that point. Yes, he was too damaged at that point, and what's his name pounced on him like a hawk or something. But nevertheless, we should look at what he does when he gets hurt. He, in his mind, questions what he should do. He does the Anthony Joshua. When he get hit with something big, he asks himself, should I continue? Should I go down to a knee? And in this fight, guess what he asks himself? Should I get up or should I quit? Again, the man is a warrior. I'm not putting an indictment on him because it takes a lot of courage and a lot of fortitude, testicular fortitude to get in that ring and get hit each and every day. But what I do know in observing patterns, when he was down on that ring, on that floor, he asked himself, should he continue? And then once he decided in his mind, once he made that decision, he looked at the ref on the count of 8. The ref barely got to 8. And then he shook his head and was like, what you expect from me, ref? You want me to get up and face this man? Because again, we know, we have an idea of what would happen, but stranger things have happened where people look like they are completely blown out of the water. And guess what? They get up and they survive the round. I don't know how many seconds were left, but what I do know is that him getting up on his back, he was definitely hurt. He was definitely compromised. But how many other compromised fighters get up and tackle a motherfucker to get more time? How many motherfuckers get up? Even Anthony Joshua gets up when he probably shouldn't, but he gets up because Anthony Joshua has a reason to get up. I don't want to face these fans. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And he gets up and gets bludgeoned even more. So I say to you, what's his name made a decision to stay down. And I dare say he quit. Because you saw it. You saw him when he said, he pretty much said no mas.
Well, first
let me just say the last point. If you showed the replay, you will see exactly that. I passed it to us in the group, and everybody know we saw that. Terrell said that himself. It would have got even worse. He decided to quit. It's no indictment on him because shit, I probably would have quit too. I don't think I would have quit. It's easy for me to say that, but I'm just saying. Me sitting on the sideline, I can say I wouldn't quit. I wouldn't have quit. The man quit, man.
And that last part.
Which part? I said two things. Which part? I said two things.
You just said the man quit, man. Dang.
First of all, let's go back to the first part of the boxing academic soliloquy on this fight, on the dinosaurs fight. I commend you. I appreciate that. I want to go back once the show is over and listen to the show again, just so I can get to that part. Because honestly, I'm not clowning, man. I appreciate how you eloquently broke that down and described that in terms of being brave, things like that. Appreciate that, man. That's the boxing academic we've been waiting on. And I'm gonna definitely go back and watch and listen to the show just for that part again right there. But I mean,
What you mean waiting on? I do this each and every show, day in, day out. What you mean you waiting on this?
I digress. I didn't watch that fight. But no, for real though. But I mean, I like how you brought up the point where once again he was Fundora sitting on the mat and it was sitting there pondering, making the decision. And sometimes we often stay on the site. What does a fighter do once again into adversity? Let's look back at probably the greatest example, Diego Corrales. This dude got hurt against I forgot dude's name or whatever, right? Multiple times. What did he do? Castillo. He held and spit that mouthpiece out. But if you haven't been on that, if you've never been hurt before, i.e. Fundora, what do? You don't know what to do. You panic and you sit there and make a decision. I mean, like I said, once again, you can debate if it's he quit or not. Whatever, it doesn't matter. He got beat. No, a loss is going to be inevitable at that point. But with Diego Corrales, he just held, spit the mouthpiece, things like that. And what happened? Like he struck lightning in the bottom and knocked Castillo out. But Fundora, he didn't know. Like you guys always say, especially Mike, what does a boxer do when they face adversity? And he faced adversity. He got out. He got out of there.
Terrell, I'm glad you brought that up because this to me always brings up this point, and it takes me back to Floyd Mayweather getting hurt by Shane Mosley. One thing I know, I believe in my heart, without even seeing, is that Floyd Mayweather does situational training of when he gets hurt, and obviously that's not something a lot of fighters do,
right?
Based upon their performance. As you said, he panicked. I mean, he was hurt now. We can understand and empathize, but we're looking at this in hindsight. How different would it have been had he had situational training of, son, if you get hurt past capacity, just go down straight to the knee versus thinking about it because it took him enough time to think about that Lubin decision. In this one, he ain't got that amount of time. On that first shot where he was hurt, again, he was hurt past capacity now he was stuck.
Yeah.
But when he on that mat though, the decision to get on the knee and get up is still the decision he made. And how different would the fight have been, at least on his part, had he had situational training?
That's something there because I mean, like I said, up to that point, he was pretty much like pitching a shutout in the fight. Now, the knockdown did happen within, the first 30 seconds of the seventh round. So he would have had a good amount of time to try to, get through that. But, like you were saying, if you do have something like that, okay, you're going to get up. This is what you do. After you get knocked down, you get up and you try to do this, or you try to tie him up, or you try to, see if you can move around the ring. But, in this particular instance, I just felt like his legs were gone. So if he does get up, he would try to see if he could clinch, try to tie up, Brian Mendoza, tie up his arms and things like that to, try to prolong, get through the round and then have that 1 minute at the end of the round to, get his bearings back and everything like that. But I guess it kind of seemed like right there at the moment that he just said, I just don't feel like I would be able to do the things that I need to do in order to get through the round, whether it's, having the defense or the clinching abilities to hold up Brian Mendoza and, hold his offense, or have enough offense of my own to try to get right back at him to try to stun him. And so that, I guess that was the decision there at that point. But that's, speculation here
Jake,
at this juncture.
let me say this to piggyback off of you. What we know Fundora, what he normally does in that situation is he beats his chest and throws back punches and fights himself out of that predicament. That's what we've seen him do every time he get hurt. He fights himself out of that predicament. So that's what he's used to doing. What I'm feeling like happened, based upon us saying this a bit more, is that on the ground, he asked himself, will I be able to fight myself out of this predicament? And he knew at that point he couldn't fight himself out of that predicament, which to me speaks to another point. Be formless. Andre Ward preaches that Bruce Lee stuff. You can't always have one way that you respond to a situation. I get it. His normal way is fisticuffs out the situation, and he normally prevails over that situation. At that point, he was like, I can't fight this man back. But imagine, again, had he practiced prevent defense, had he practiced tackling the motherfucker in the middle of the ring, had he practiced, leaning on him, mauling, just holding the dude, everything, right? Just to give yourself more time, anything.
Right.
Sling him out the ring, anything. I'm not saying be dirty, but I'm just saying, had he practiced that, he would have had another thought, another path in his mind that he said, let me just get past this moment. Versus what he actually did was said, I can't fight this man back. What you want me to do, Ralph? I can't fight this man back.
Yeah, it was just something where, I guess, over the course of those first 6 rounds, he was, outboxing, Brian Mendoza, but it just looked like he just had it to the point where he wasn't able to seriously, hurt Brian Mendoza in comparison to something like, in the Erickson Lubin fight where he had already scored like, early knockdown before he was, put down to a knee himself. And then he responded like the way you were talking about. He responded with offense. He didn't really respond with defense. He responded with offense and just felt like, I'm confident enough in that Lubin situation that the offense that I throw, as much as I throw my hands, like Lubin's not going to be able to handle that. But here, I guess against Mendoza, he just felt like, over the course of those 2.5 minutes that were there in the 7th round, I guess he just felt like he just didn't feel like he could do that against Brian Mendoza there in the 7th round. And like I was saying before, he feels like, okay, I had to take this. It was something where I was, seriously, buzzed. So I just said, you know what, I'm going to stay down and just take this loss. And, winning and losing is part of the game. Like he said on his Twitter page, winning and losing is part of the game. So he says like he'll be back on this thing. I don't know if there was like any type of a rematch clause or anything like that on this, but we'll probably see Fundora here back again. I'm not sure if it'll be against Mendoza in his next fight, but he's like saying like, hey, he'll be definitely back here soon. So that's going to be something on his part to see if he's going to be able to respond to something that is one of the good candidates for knockout of the year so far, there. So there's that, man. Had like other things on the news front. Over there in Newark, you did have Josh Taylor in the tennis. You also had like Terrence Crawford in the tennis there because there was a number of fighters there on B&B that were part of that card in Newark. But the thing there with Josh Taylor, they did officially announce the joint for him versus Teofimo Lopez for the WBO super lightweight title. Like I said, Josh Taylor was there in the tennis in Newark. Teofimo Lopez was at UFC 247 or whatever it is that Ismail Adesanya about there, and they were like talking back and forth in reference to what's going to be going down there, and they said that this particular bout is going to be at the theater at Madison Square Garden instead of like the actual Madison Square Garden. Um, yeah, I think that there's like a couple of things in reference to that kind of like made that a factor with that being that decision. So yeah, so that's going to be a pretty interesting bout that's going to happen there in the super lightweight division. And some people are saying like with this being a high stakes bout that Teofimo Lopez is going to approach this a whole lot different than he approached his last bout. That was actually in the Madison Square Garden main arena there. So, like I said, I mean that makes the summer pretty much kind of like packed as far as like some good fights coming up, and that's going to be one of those good fights that'll happen in the sport of boxing. So, definitely looking forward to that. I know that there was like another card that did take place that was on the zone. You did have Jesse Bam Rodriguez get another title, and this was like in the the flyweight division, and it was a decision decision win for him there. So he he's like a 2 division world champion. I know that he had like the thing there where he performed very well in his last bout that was in San Antonio against Rizeket Rungvisai there at the super flyweight. But here against Christian Hernandez at San Antonio, he was able to get a unanimous decision win. But also one other thing that kind of like stood out in that fight card, you did have unified champion at the time in super bantamweight MJ Akhmadaliev lose by split decision to Marlon Tapales there. So you have a new unified champion at super bantamweight, and some people kind of like hinted at the joke that, hey, maybe we could finally have an undisputed super bantamweight champion. But we know that Stephen Fulton has some business to take care of there against Naoya Inoue later in the summer. So those were like the other news tidbits that happened there in the sport of boxing. But outside of that, we really kind of like close things out here for this particular show. Is there like anything y'all want to add here before I close out?
No, for me, just looking forward to Garcia and Tank. Definitely been enjoying the lead up to their fight on the Showtime. What's I forgot what it's called, whatever. But
Showtime All Access. Yeah, they had the episode 2 that came out yesterday. So yeah, they've been doing very well with that. And that episode 2, that already has like what I think 1.3 million views or something like that. At least up to a few hours ago, it was like 1.3 million views. So that event, man, I'm telling you, they're gonna have some good numbers for that pay-per-view. They're gonna have some good numbers for it.
Oh, definitely, and just even in that regard, what other fighters now are doing a lead up to their fight? Because back 10, 15 years ago, we saw that all the time, and we know HBO did that quite a bit with Cotto, people like that. But
24/7 HBO, 24/7, yep.
But there's no one else that what other fighters now are worthy of even doing the lead up to the fight. Think about how boxing has changed in that regard. Watching major superstars in the sport, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the only other one that they would probably put up there for something like that right now is Canelo. And, with him being on the zone, you really don't have that type of programming or, that apparatus to do that on the zone. So if he was like on Showtime, then yeah, I mean, I'm not mistaken. They probably did the whole thing with the All Access for Canelo versus Plant when they had that fight on Showtime pay-per-view. But, outside of that, you really don't have that type of lead in or build up, where it's a special kind of like leading into a fight of that magnitude, So yeah, I have to wait it out to see what kind of like happens with that. You'll probably see another All Access for another, I guess, feature bout on Showtime that may happen in the summer, but we'll have to see what happens next on that. You have on the live chat here, brother Tip Bailey says that boxing needs to get back on the the networks there to get the support it needs, whether it's on CBS or NBC. But I think when they initially did that, particularly with the Premier Boxing Champions, I guess they got the time slots, but I guess when they did get it, it was like at a prime time type of a deal. So they kind of like said, "Hey, I'm looking at the ratings and looking at what could be here at this particular time slot, and it doesn't add up, I guess. So they kind of like went away from that. So maybe it needs to get to something where it's like you could try to have more fight cards that are during the day. You know what I'm saying? If they could do that, maybe something like a mid to late afternoon type of thing, like a 3 p.m. Eastern time or 5 p.m. Eastern time type of thing. So once it's done, it's like it ends at about 8 p.m. Eastern time, and then that'll give enough time for those networks to have like primetime shows during the weekend or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, with CBS, don't they have the thing with like, what is it, the Equalizer, something with Queen Latifah? So that particular show is getting a lot of views. So they wouldn't want to necessarily give up a spot like that, to an Equalizer or to like a NCIS, for something that is not necessarily one of those major sports. Like if it was like NFL or like college football, even SEC on CBS, and they could have those type of time slots. But something like boxing wouldn't necessarily get that. Like, I mean, even with college football, they're about to have like another deal on CBS for I think it's the Big Ten or something that'll be on CBS. So they got a new deal there. So college football is still something that has, of course, the interest of the nation for it to be on like a CBS or like an NBC or something like that. But for boxing, not necessarily there. Like I said, if it's like SEC football, Big Ten football on CBS or Notre Dame football on NBC, then they're like, yeah, all right, cool. But if it's boxing, they got to work, a few things there for something like that. So, pretty much that, that's what I got here in this particular episode. They're completing it April 9th, 2023. Big thanks to Terrell and the Boxing Academic for being a part of this here. And also those that were pretty much on the live chat. Oh, I did see there that, my folks over there, the DMV, Supreme Beast Boxing Talk, there, of course, they have their, content on YouTube. Be sure to check them out. You know what I'm saying? They're on the Beltway. You know what I'm saying? They got a very good show there where they talk about, the fights. They do have like a preview show of sorts sometimes there for upcoming cards before those fights do take place. So for those listening in, shout out to them there. Support the family there, Supreme Beast Boxing Talk there. And also, you got other people there on the network like AM Sports Media, YSM Sports Media, who was also, there in attendance in Newark there as well. Manager Marty there on the YouTube sphere, and also a few others there, that are part of the network, including War Week Radio Network. Of course, Joseph Aaron is a big supporter of the Boxing Source too. So shout out to him as well. But that's what I got in reference to this particular episode of the Boxing Source Radio Show. We'll be right back at it here next week, where we're going to, pretty much get into the fight card that will be in Las Vegas, Nevada. Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. I thank Brother Terrell and the Boxing Academic for being a part of this particular podcast. And like I say, at the end of every show, folks, the point of boxing is hitting like a hit, not to stand and trade. On that note, folks, I'm out. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thanks for all you do, JR. Thanks.
For sure.